In today's digital age, we have access to an incredible amount of information. From social media to news outlets, we can get up-to-the-minute updates on any topic. However, as the amount of information available to us grows, so does the risk of information overload. The sheer volume of information that we encounter on a daily basis can be overwhelming, and our brains may struggle to process all of it. This information overload often leads to an increased cognitive load, a state in which our brains become overwhelmed with information, resulting in decreased cognitive functioning, reduced decision-making capacity, and an increased likelihood of utilizing cognitive biases. As a result, we often see negative work and education environments when surrounded by information overload. Cognitive biases can be thought of as mental shortcuts used to make swift and efficient decisions, driven primarily by our automatic and intuitive thinking. On a day-to-day basis, these shortcuts are relatively useful for making sense of the world around us without constantly relying on higher-level cognitive processes like mathematical reasoning or logic. Unfortunately, these shortcuts are not perfect and can lead to faulty reasoning and poor decision-making. For example, we may engage in confirmation bias where we only seek out and consider information that confirms our existing beliefs. Or, we might fall prey to groupthink and conform to the opinions of a group rather than thinking critically and independently. These cognitive biases can have significant consequences on our lives and the world around us. However, although information overload is increasingly prevalent and heightens our risk of relying on cognitive biases, there are research-tested strategies to manage information overload and overcome cognitive biases, leading to a more well-functioning society that can handle technological and digital advances more efficiently. First, our algorithmic and social information filters in the form of online content creators and social media platforms can be the first line of defense to mitigate confirmation bias when people are faced with information overload. Take a look at the following text. Pretty easy to read and comprehend. Your brain should automatically be able to process it without much thought. Now, try reading the same text with only a few minor adjustments. What you're experiencing right now is known as information disfluency, and research has shown when information that goes against our beliefs is presented in a disfluent manner, whether that be in an illogical order or with decreased readability, it decreases the chance that people will engage in confirmation bias. When dealing with disfluent information, our cognitive systems are forced to utilize more effortful thinking to engage with the information and consider its validity, thus reducing confirmation bias. Infographic creators and news agencies could apply these strategies to force the viewers to take a second look at the information to truly understand its meaning. Research has also found that when social media algorithms use their recommended content systems to present people with alternatively sourced information, it significantly decreases the chance that people would ignore this new information and resort to confirmation bias. Again, if social media platforms wanted to encourage their users to think critically, they could use their feed algorithms to suggest alternative information viewpoints to reduce confirmation bias. When the first line of defense fails, there are still a number of ways we can overcome information overload and reduce our biases. Information experts encourage us to think critically about the world around us, especially around politicized or heightened topics. Notably, we should be aware of the two sides fallacy, where media outlets might irrationally cover competing sides of the same story, even if one side does not necessarily deserve to be considered. For example, we might see competing opinions about climate change in the news, even if the science is almost entirely in agreement about its causes and effects. Moreover, to avoid groupthink, researchers encourage us to engage in open and diverse discussions among our group members to ensure that everyone has the chance to reflect upon and share their unique perspectives. Some may argue that with the world ever evolving, the information around us will continually grow and overwhelm us at an increasing rate. Although it is true that we are seeing continuous growth in the amount of physical and digital information, there is no data that suggests our overload will continue to grow as well. At a certain point, an overload is just an overload, and it appears we have long hit our psychological critical mass of information. As Dr. David Weinberger puts it, it doesn't matter if you drown in water that's 10 feet deep or 10 miles deep. As such, there is no significant reason to be concerned about the rapid growth. Our social and algorithmic filters that help us manage the information have also been evolving to assist us in managing the information tidal wave. So, even though we live in a world where the rapid growth of information challenges and hinders our cognitive thinking by introducing biases, there still remain tried and true strategies to overcome the information overload and safely engage in the news and social media.